Okay, welcome to part 2 of the Club Comics Clique podcast, I guess you could call it. We actually had to break this into 2 parts because it was way too long. It was over an hour. So this is actually part 2. So, I mean, is there a clique in comics? Yes, comics, there are many levels, both in the monthlies, and the graphic novels, and now even down to the indies. There are gatekeepers, and the reason that they are there is that they're trying to control the types of people who get into comics, and they also want to make sure, I mean, like I said,
their narrative is the only narrative.
Right, and you get into comics, talent is secondary. I hate to say it. Used to be you do the portfolio reviews. I think the reason that like Marvel and DC and these other companies don't do the open portfolio reviews anymore is they'd rather hear from somebody else that so-and-so is good, or so-and-so can draw, or so-and-so had a social media following and that's how they got a job. Because they know who they're working with. And I think what's going on now is basically, you know, I know it's exactly what's going on. You get jobs in comics based on who you know. Now, that was not the case 10, 15, 20 years ago. It was based solely on talent and marketability.
You got jobs based on who you know.
Well, I did, but that was
you had to have the talent to back it up.
Yeah, you had to have the talent.
You couldn't just know somebody and get a gig.
Right, but now people,
my cousin's friend.
Right, but I'm not saying that the people getting into comics, breaking into comics now aren't talented.
No, there's a lot of them that are, actually.
There are a lot that are phenomenally talented, but I am saying that the talent is secondary. The connection, the personal connection is...
But making sure you have the right thoughts.
When you've been vetted, when you get your smoking jacket and your little pipe,
you have the right mindset, the same mindset, the hive mind.
Right. If you have been thoroughly vetted first, and then by the way, you happen to draw real good, then yes, you will be allowed into Club Comics.
And I think a lot of people know this, which is why when these people make comments, there's all these like little butt sniffers that are right there, like you're right. Oh, you're right.
They think they're going to get a cookie. They think they're going to be let into the club.
But there's not going to be cookies for you because the
industry's destroyed. There's not going to be anything left for you.
Yeah, there's no cookies for you. Well, even if there is any left, they're not going to give you a cookie just because you agree with them, because their other friend who they want to get in, who's going to, not only can draw good, but is going to put their platform on this book, is going to get the cookie. I mean, it's just... Yeah. And at the end of the day...
It's almost like placing political candidates.
Like, it is. It's kind of the same thing. It really is. And like this backdoor things that went on. And it's happened not just in this. There were some other groups that happened for like about conventions and stuff too. Yeah. But this behavior... And is what I think people are upset about. People are not upset about diversity. People are not upset that people of different, ethnicities, races, sexual orientations are drawing the comics. That's not what they're upset about.
No, they're upset. I think they're upset that if they don't like a particular direction, if it's obvious that a company is basically pandering, and then
that's it.
The readers complain, then they're told they're a bunch of hate mongers and bigots. And the same thing is happening with, you talked about Star Wars earlier. It's happening with Star Wars now. Well, now a lot of Star Wars fans are threatening to boycott Solo because they were told that because they didn't like the way that Luke Skywalker was completely and utterly emasculated and destroyed in The Last Jedi.
Are you talking about them or you?
Yeah,
are you projecting?
I am. But they're going to boycott Star Wars now because, again, it comes down to the attitude and professionalism, because if the studios, if the publishers would keep their mouths shut, if their talent would, address people like human beings and not try to insult people, there wouldn't be the negative feelings that there are. They make the bad situation worse.
I think people came from the culture of the internet. A lot of people that were before the culture of the internet were learned to be professional. I'm not saying that just because you're like a younger person, you're a professional. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you're raised with this culture of the internet.
Being anonymous.
And being anonymous. Yeah, there you go. Being anonymous. Where you can say whatever and no one's going to know it's you. And cyberbullying and all these things that I think it desensitizes you almost to actual people's feelings. And it also makes you, in one way, and also makes you more sensitive to criticism in another. Like, how dare you critique? Because I see a lot of webcomics. If you point out something, it's not constructive criticism. You're negative. Yeah. You're being negative towards me. How dare you?
They can't handle.
They can't handle anything.
They can't handle the complaints. They can't handle. And again, I think this comes down to you said about it being younger people, and this isn't an ageist thing.
No, I'm not trying to make it an ageist thing. I'm just saying it's a different culture.
There's a different culture, and it's because I think comics where it is right now, what it pays right now, they're hiring mostly younger people, so they're bringing that culture with them. They're bringing, a lot of them are coming from Tumblr. They're bringing, which Tumblr is freaking cancer of the internet, but they're bringing that culture with them too. They're bringing, their lack of experience in working in a professional environment. They're bringing that with them, and it's a perfect storm of just, it's a powder keg.
And it could be like teachable moments either. I mean, the people that are in charge of them, you could take this as a teachable moment and being like, look, I understand why you're upset, but you shouldn't say this to our customers, and here's why. Maybe we can handle it where, we reach some kind of compromise where you can make people understand why you feel the way you do, but also be apologetic towards them because you really shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
But there isn't any like,
no.
And then at the end of the day, they keep saying, we don't care if we make sales. But if you don't make sales, you don't have a job.
It's because they're too dense to get that. They're too, they don't. Again, this comes down to that club mentality versus business, which a lot of these YouTubers are saying, and this is 110% true. This would not fly in any other industry, but because comics has been run into the ground so far, they just don't care. They just don't care anymore.
If you're working for somebody and it's their property, you need to stay true to their property. It's like the reason Disney has a problem with Marvel and they're resetting everything is because people are coming to the movies and they want to see, okay, I'm seeing Iron Man, I want to buy the comic. Wait, this isn't Iron Man. Or I want to see Captain America. Whoa, what the heck did you do to Captain America?
Captain America's a Nazi and Iron Man's a teenage black girl. What happened?
I know, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that, but that brand,
it's confusing.
It's confusing.
And I also think that,
there's something wrong with Captain America being a Nazi. I mean,
that's
garbage.
ridiculous.
That was stupid.
That was dumb. But I'm just saying, it's I think just to keep it all in one, in sync with each other, it makes sense. If you really want to do your own thing, you want to tell your own story, you want to tell your own, political viewpoint, do your own story.
Right.
Don't take established characters, established IP, and that's kind of insulting. Okay, it's insulting as a woman. Give me a new strong female character. Don't take an already existing strong male character and make him a woman. I think that's almost like you can't carry a book. You can't carry a book.
No,
by
it's
yourself.
exactly what it is, and that's where even a lot of.
I think people could carry books by themselves.
A lot of minority comics readers have actually had a problem with them taking established white characters and turning them into a minority character just for the sake of turning them into a minority character, because it almost feels like hand-me-downs. It feels like you're saying we're incapable of creating a new black or a new Latino or a new LGBTQ character and putting them on equal footing with Spider-Man or Iron Man.
They don't know. They didn't try.
They didn't try. Now, I will give the 80s and 90s, they did try. Milestone Comics was fantastic. They had these great characters.
You were talking about this.
And they were all new characters. And they had the right creative people, and they had a marketing push, and those books were great.
And they had characters that were gay and things, but that wasn't their sole focus of the whole comic. Did we mention you're gay? Hey, I'm gay. Did I mention I'm gay? I'm gay. Did I mention I'm gay?
North
it was
Star.
About a good,
North Star from Alpha Flight. It kind of came out, hey, he's gay. And it was
exactly.
He's still a good character.
It doesn't matter.
He was a good character before, but then people had issues with Bobby Drake with
if anybody's gay.
Iceman, which I actually kind of had because there was never any indication ever in the history of X-Men that Iceman was gay, and then they just kind of woke up one day and said, hey, let's make Iceman gay. Instead of having a new character come in and say,
which they could have done.
They could have done. Let's build this other character up. By the way, I'm gay. Bobby Drake, there was never any indication at all that he was gay. And the fans just freaking, his book got canceled after 6 issues. People were furious.
That's just it. If they had just made a new character to personify what they're trying to get across, and maybe phase the other guy out, that he's still there, but he's back here, we can bring him back later, but we're going to push this person to the foreground, and this person's our new character with these attributes that we want to get across.
Right.
That would have been okay. I don't think people would have cared.
I think Archie did it well with Kevin Keller. Mm-hmm. They created Kevin Keller, but they didn't make Archie gay. They created Kevin Keller, and then they gave him a strong marketing push. And the book, as far as I know, did really well.
Right,
and
because they're not trying. You
didn't make Jughead gay. Well, now I guess Jughead doesn't like girls. He just likes hamburgers. But that's a whole nother. I don't understand what's going on with Archie. I don't even know what's going on with Archie.
I'm just saying. I'm just it's kind of insulting because it's kind of I don't think a woman is strong enough to carry this book.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're coming back to.
And as a woman, that's kind of just speaking of being insulted by women, the one guy in that secret retailers group, he was making comments basically he got caught and they called him out, and then his answer to being called out wasn't that we should have done that was crappy. It was, well, now we're going to be harassed because you said who we were. We were in the shadows hiding and trying to be, covert. And now you called our names out, and now we're going to be harassed. And then that wasn't bad enough.
Don't do it.
Wait, if that wasn't bad enough, it's all great until a female retailer gets hurt. White guy, going on about the female retailer. He doesn't give two rats balls about a female retailer.
No, he doesn't.
He just wants to use a female retailer as a shield. And I see this all the time.
Yeah.
You know, well, we can't do this because, you know, what if, you know, that person, this
the
or that
black people
person,
and the gay people might be offended, but it's a white person saying it.
Right.
Like,
and
did you actually ask a black person or gay person if they're offended?
You might hurt their feelings, or they might inadvertently get hurt.
Right.
And it's like, if you cared about that in the first place, well, first of all, this is a guy who already had jumped all over a woman who had retweeted something with the hashtag. And
she
he didn't
doesn't
care
count.
If she got
She's a
hurt.
Nazi. She's a Nazi.
I'm
She
just
doesn't
saying,
count.
using minorities as your personal shield, like you get busted, and to try to deflect, well, what if this minority gets hurt because of this? I'm only standing up for the minorities. Is complete bullshit, and it's insulting. As a woman, it's insulting. Sorry, but it is. Pissing me off.
I completely agree, because I'm like, and it's always like white, like straight white dudes using minorities as a shield, using like women as a shield.
Women should be damsels in distress. Well, then why do you keep treating them like they're damsels in distress?
Yeah.
They're not damsels in distress until you make them that, because it gets your point across. And it's like, you pick a side. You're either an empowered woman or you're damsel in distress.
And you think if you know play that card long enough, you'll get laid. Anyway.
Honestly, I said that to you, actually.
I know.
And when this whole thing started, I said to him, only saying that because they want to get laid, but that's another story entirely.
So
this is going on a long time.
That's okay. There's a lot to talk about. Because this does come back to Clique and comics. Yes, there's a Clique in comics, and what's making them the most upset about the Jawbreakers Indiegogo campaign to bring it back to the beginning.
They did a good job. I will tell them. I mean,
it's a professional looking book, and it doesn't look like
and
it's
they behaved
overly
professionally. He deliberately not start any fights during the campaign.
But no, what makes them upset is in 2018 you cannot control who gets into comics anymore.
And what do they think it's going to do for retailers not to take them? First of all, there's not many retailers left.
No.
And of the retailers that are left, a small percentage of them are in this group. So it doesn't represent everyone.
No.
And beyond that, in 2018, you don't even need a comic book store.
No, you don't.
And let's be honest.
I mean, honestly, at this point, if I were a retailer, I'd be like, oh my God, this book already sold 5,000 copies. Yes, I want it in my shop because I need the sales to stay in business. And a lot of these
same retailers were the ones that were at New York City Comic Con screaming at Marvel in that closed door meeting about what were they going to do because their sales are dropping and they had to do something about these books. And they get, and Marvel basically said, well, shut up. Basically, was their behavior, shut them down and wouldn't let them talk.
Yeah.
And then, this is what the kind of books they were hoping to get back. I can't think that they wouldn't do it. If no other reason than to be like, screw you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very small group of...
Because they're scared.
Very, very... Yeah, no, that's exactly it. They are scared because the country club is letting everybody in now. And the thing is, there's not a damn thing you can do about it. With the internet, there is not a damn thing you can do to keep somebody from making comics. You want to make comics, even if you're not getting your comic printed, you can do web comics, you can do Comixology.
And some of these web comics people get more views a week than these people sell comic books a month.
Yeah,
That's the truth.
Yeah, there are. Some of the webcomics Kickstarters have done more money than Jawbreakers, because they have massive audiences. And those people, I remember a time, and it wasn't that long ago, where print professionals look down their noses at people who did webcomics. Basically, they're like, you weren't good enough to do real comics.
Oh, you know when it shifted? Two things shifted that. One being, which is a whole other podcast we need to do.
Yeah.
One being when suddenly the Eisners recognized it and gave it its own category, which originally was webcomics and then became digital comics. And then it's been awarded to everybody who already is a professional comic creator in the print comics. And when people started saying, holy crap, they're making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that changed.
Once
we're going to do a podcast on that.
Yeah, we'll do but long and short of it is when print comics started to decline, and they were seeing these ridiculous sums coming up on
and
Kickstarter.
Those people were getting movie deals too and things too.
Yeah, and they bypassed Club Comics. Like these people, for the most part. Now there's some of them who actually were kind of part of Club Comics, or they got invited into Club Comics so they could share their knowledge with the print comics people, whatever. But the bottom line is, the cliques do exist, but they can't do a damn thing to keep you out of comics. So if you want to make comics and you're afraid that you can't, get past this clique, screw them, because
you don't need it. And on the flip side, if you're a person that really wants to do comics and you're being told you can't do your personal agenda on comics or whatever in the mainstream comics, that doesn't mean you can't go and do it on a webcomic.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're out. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be lashing out like like a wounded animal at all times.
Well, that's exactly, the comic book industry
So they're
is
scared.
a wounded animal.
I feel bad because I'm a mom and I'm a teacher and I worked in psychology and stuff, and their behavior is indicative of fear. I mean, it's just in fear-like behavior.
It's almost like they were trying to talk themselves into believing that the folks who were not happy with the direction comics, it was very small, because I remember this bit mantra being repeated.
It's okay, rock. It's not just us. It's only a couple people.
Right. This
just us.
Yeah, this
Rock,
mantra
rock,
was
rock.
being repeated over and over. Oh, it's such a small group. It's this guy. He's got a bunch of sock puppet accounts. They're not real comic book people. They don't actually
that's a lot
have money.
How many backers? That's a lot of
Like
sock puppet accounts.
4,000 or 5,000 people. More people bought Jawbreakers than buy Boom and IDW books on average per month. And these are guaranteed sales. These aren't books shipped to comic shops. These are guaranteed sales.
Skewed numbers.
And they haven't even hit the comic shops. Well, what comic shops will carry it yet? So, the fact is that the comic book industry should be scared shitless. It should be scared.
They already are.
It should be scared.
That's why they're behaving the way they are.
Shitless, because there are a lot of really pissed off customers out there that you've alienated, and I think there's going to be blowback. There's going to be ridiculous blowback.
What gets me is this whole thing could have been avoided.
Yeah.
I mean, it really could have.
If you've just been nice.
If you just for some professionalism
nice.
here, some listening to your fan base and making a couple changes here, talking it out and not being elitist snots, a lot of this could have been avoided. I mean, it really could have been. It just was really handled poorly in several places.
It was. So now there's a huge kind of anti, SJW, which I hate using that term.
I know, because not everybody is.
No, I hate using that term because a liberal.
To me, that's as bad as alt-right Nazi.
Yeah, that's to me, so SJW, for those of you who aren't familiar, SJW stands for Social Justice Warrior, which has sort of been used interchangeably with far left or leftist. I don't believe that. To me, a social justice warrior is a poser. It's someone who spouts off about political correctness and activism, but they never leave their keyboard. Like they're not actually activists of anything. I have a lot of respect for people, even if I disagree with you, I have a lot of respect for people who actually go out there and participate in actual activism, and they have ideals and they stick to those guns. People who just are keyboard jockeys and they want to, be the school marm and lord over other people and tell them what they can and can't do. I have no respect or time for you.
And the thing is, not everybody is this. I mean, I think it's a very small amount of people.
I think it's a small amount of people.
I think earned the actual title. I think it's thrown around just as much as alt-right Nazi.
I would agree.
I think they're just using it as a catch-all for everybody, even if they might just lean a little bit more left than you like, does not make them a social justice warrior.
No,
and there's a lot of people on Twitter I don't think are social justice warriors. They're just kind of caught in it, and they don't know what side to take, and they're erring on the side of caution and being like, well,
I want to be on the right side of history. Basically. So they're like, I'll give a like to this because if I don't, oh my God, my friends are going to hunt me down and
there's been
question
times where I've seen actual comments by these people that I agree with. I'm like, no, I completely agree with you on that, but I don't agree with you on this. And you're not allowed to just say, hey, we don't agree on everything, but let's be friends. It's you better agree with everything that we agree with, or you can't talk to us. You can't even look at us. If you look at me, it's harassment.
Oh God, comics. This is what infuriates me, okay? Because I grew up reading comic books. I've been reading comic books since.
Long podcast.
It's fine. We'll just keep on going. I grew up reading comic books. I started reading comic books when I was like 6 years old, and I was reading G.I. Joe comics and Transformers comics. And I used to go to the I had a group of friends. We all read comics. We went to a comic shop. We hooked up with other people who read comics. Comics brought us together. Like everybody.
You didn't have to always agree on the same thing. No,
we didn't. And there were we'd have fights over whose powers are better than whose, or who was the better artist, or whatever. But comics used to be an escape from the real world. It used to bring people together, and now it's just a shit show.
It's another polarizing thing.
And
I think there's
like
too many.
You've ruined comics.
One thing like Avengers is so great in the movie theater was because it wasn't actual escapism. It was about politics, and everywhere you look. Internet, news,
you can't get
going
away from
to work, your family, my family, it's all about politics, and everything is about politics, and it's so polarizing, and it's exhausting.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to pick up a comic and be like, God, I just want to read a good Superman story. I don't want to be preached at. And you can't, it's not even like it's like basically being made to pay for those little Jack Chick tracts. That it would be like somebody knocking on your door and giving you one of these little Bible tracts, but then saying, give me $4 for that. That's basically what it is, because you're being preached at without really wanting to be. That's true. You're paying for entertainment.
But then when you don't give them the $4, they're mad because how dare you?
Right.
And then they start out with, we don't want your money anyway, until they realize they might lose their job, and then they're like, please buy our comic, but don't be a dick. And it's like, but you're being a dick.
You can't have it both ways. And it's just, I think it is fear. I think it's fear.
I know it's fear.
This is the death rattle of the mainstream comic book industry, which is unfortunate, but I think it has to evolve. And I think what's going to happen is...
I think it's an evolution, not really a death. I think it's an evolution.
It's comics aren't going, and I do agree that comics aren't going anywhere. The comic book medium's not going anywhere. But how people make and distribute comics is going to change. You're going to see more things like Jawbreakers and other crowd-funded projects. You're going to see more digital comics, and they're going to be produced by people who aren't part of Club Comics.
And I'll tell you, I mean, we do a lot of things in webcomics, and pretty much anything you could think of is in webcomics. I'm sure if you're looking for a good story out there, go look. I'm sure you'll find some really good stories, really good art. And you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but then people. The great thing about that though is a lot of times they can take their online audience, if they have the right audience, and they can transition them into paying customers.
Right.
And that's kind of what Jawbreakers did. Was he had this massive online audience, and they supported his book because they supported him, and they support what his stands for.
That's very obvious in the comments.
Right, and people are backing Jawbreakers simply. I mean,
because they like him.
Yeah, comic book retailers. You need to listen because they're backing Jawbreakers. I mean, I'm sure they're backing it because they like the book too, and the art looks phenomenal. It looks really good, but they're backing it because they want to give the middle finger to the comic book industry and the way things have been going.
And they like him, and they like that he's speaking out against it. And the one thing I like about the book too is that it is a traditional like good comic book without politics. It is good guys, bad guys, and an adventure, and it's not. I'm, extreme right, and I'm going to ramp down your throat, or I'm extreme left, I'm going to ramp down your throat. However, they should put more clothes on that woman.
That's your complaint. Okay, so we'll get you a copy, and you can draw in a
I'm just saying, I understand why, because they're going for that 90s look and feel.
Yeah.
Definitely covered it on that. You just need to cover the woman.
It's a very Jim Lee-like style pinup. But no, and I mean, this is going to happen. And the thing is, there's nothing the Gatekeepers can do. And, if Diversity in Comics is upset because a handful of retailers won't carry the book, screw them, because you know what? They're going to put themselves out of business anyway. The way that it's going right now, retailers cannot afford to lose a single customer. Like, they're the most... I mean, Meltdown Comics, massive, huge comic book shop in Los Angeles. It was ground zero for all of the Hollywood geeks. Went out of business.
You say Meltdown had a meltdown?
Meltdown had a meltdown. Like, the comic book industry is on the freaking rocks, and they can't afford to turn away half of their customers based on politics. And if they do it, they're going to go out of business, and that's their own damn problem. People are still going to make comics. They're still going to sell comics. They just might not be selling them through comic book shops.
That's why I was like, why are you going all this trouble having this backdoor or whatever secret society? Because they don't need you.
They don't need you. And I think that's why they're scared.
This kind of pointless.
It's another group of gatekeepers that don't matter.
I mean, maybe because we come from a webcomic standpoint as well, that we know that you don't need that.
Right.
And, maybe in their mind, because they all are, pretty much solely print, they still are on the belief that you do. I don't know. But it's just whacked.
Yeah, I mean, I think he even... if I remember correctly, Diversity in Comics, he was saying something about the fact that he knows he's not going to make a lot of sales in comic shops. He just wanted the bragging rights of being in the comic book shop. But
I mean, there's something to be said that when you're in a comic book shop and your book's in there, it is really cool.
It's cool. I mean, we used to go in that shop and just be like, hey, there's a book to work on. There it is.
We did, actually.
And
it is nice.
Yeah, see this book? Yeah, I worked on that book. That's my book.
It is nice. So I understand that. I can relate to that.
Yeah, but frankly, it's meaning less and less as time marches on. And for anybody listening to this who is worried about, whether or not they're going to be part of the Clique, and I've seen people, throw themselves at the Clique trying to be part of the Clique.
Oh, I know people are still doing that.
You are not going to get a cookie. If you've been trying to break into Club Comics for years and you're not getting anywhere, chances are you're probably not going to.
No. But they'll keep you around as a cute little mascot.
Yeah, you can.
Plus, they always need constant affirmation.
Right. But you can make your own comics. You can get into comics yourself. You can be incredibly successful. I mean, my God, I would say probably the most successful comic out there right now is probably The Oatmeal, which is a webcomic, which is stick figures, and he's making millions of dollars.
And then we've had big companies, I'm not going to say who, have come to us to help them promote projects and, things because, we do the stuff we do. So, I mean, these are big companies coming and asking us and people like us, what should we do? Because they feel that things we do are going to be more popular than you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you
don't
need Club Comics. It's kind of like, it's almost like one of those like 80s movies where you realize that like the cool kids aren't the cool kids, and everybody gets up and leaves their table and they go sit at the other table. That's what it is. The cool kids let the quote unquote cool kids sit at the table by themselves and commiserate. Everybody else is going to go start hanging out with people who are doing things differently. So yeah, the club comics will mean less and less as time goes on, and I think the next iteration of comics will be more people creating comics and selling them directly to their fan base.
Right.
And I think that also scares people in club comics, because I think they're starting to realize they personally may not have as many actual fans as they think they do. People are buying their comics because they're with a big publisher.
Or because they like the character. And it's not really because they wrote it, they drew it, whatever.
Whereas with something like Jawbreakers, they're buying it because they're supporting Richard Meyer directly.
That book, which is his book, you know, so it is supporting him directly.
Yeah.
And it's like, I also want people to realize too that, you know, just because people disagree with you on certain things does not mean they're your enemy. And I'm saying this on both sides, because it's so much of this, if you're not with me, you're against me, bull crap.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Only the Sith deal in absolutes.
Pretty much. And it's just like, you know, and we have a lot of friends who won't talk to us now for doing nothing other than saying, hey, Marvel sales numbers are kind of crap. What the heck's up with that?
I have a former editor at one of the publishers I've worked with who, because of certain people I followed on Twitter, unfollowed me. And I never did a thing to this person. I actually thought this person was...
Well, some people even knew you personally and know that you're not...
me personally. Some of these people I've actually helped.
He's helped
helped them get gigs, and they still unfollowed me because they were so afraid of club comics and that you know, what they're calling the mean girl attitude.
And there's some people I like really respect in there. I personally still think they're good people at heart. I think they're misguided people, but I think that I understand they're afraid and they're probably worried about getting things taken away, but they're actually not bad people. And it's just infuriating, because you can actually disagree and still be friends. And my other thing I want to say is, you don't go call on harassment and threats on somebody else for saying it against you when you're doing it to somebody else too. Because if they had evidence of all these harassment and threats, they would have presented it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I don't believe people have been harassed, but...
I guarantee people have been harassed.
You know, it does work both ways, and I think some of it is just trying to...
And I don't necessarily think it's the people that you're looking at. I think it's the people that follow them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, too. When you have a large platform like that, I mean, you can have some crazy followers. I mean, you know...
On both sides.
Jodie Foster didn't tell anybody to shoot the president, but they did, you know, and it's just, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do. You know, I don't think the Beatles really appreciated Charles Manson using their song, you know, Helter Skelter. But yeah, it's just, you can't really control.
I mean, like we're being harassed by him. No, by the followers. And it's like, which I believe.
I do believe that. You can't, but yeah, it's again, you know, and I will say that there are, you know, most of these folks, they flat said, like, don't harass anyone, don't target anyone.
On both sides, they've said that.
Right. But that doesn't mean that people are going to listen. That doesn't mean that they're already, you know, they're not already mentally unbalanced and they're going to use this as an opportunity to, you know, harass people but they're prone to harassing people anyway. You know, they just using this as an excuse to do it.
But you have to understand that doesn't mean everybody. It's a small percentage, and you know, it happens. But I'm talking about like when they're claiming the people in charge are harassing. It's funny because on the one side, I'm seeing they actually are providing proof of said harassment and said nasty comments. But the other side, they say it happened, but they never actually show anything. And my comment that is, you guys dug back years to find a police record on this guy.
Yeah.
If you had anything on him, you would have waved it like, you know, a guy waves his dick pic. You would have, you know, waved that thing all over the place.
Yeah, it's so, God, it's just the depths that the people in the comic industry is sinking to now, just to like I don't even know what they're trying to accomplish. They're surely not trying to increase sales, because that's not happening. They're just trying to create a safe space for them and their friends and their club, and not let the kids in. But you can't
keep a club if it doesn't make any money.
No, you can't.
You
can't
lose
pay,
your clubhouse.
Yeah, you can't pay the rent in the clubhouse if you're not making money, and that they don't seem to grasp that concept. Like you're going to lose a clubhouse. Like Disney, they would shut down Marvel Comics tomorrow if it meant that they would save some money, that they could do it, and you know, divert some of those funds to maybe some of their streaming, you know, movie things, whatever. Because as far as Disney's concerned, my understanding is, to them, the MCU is the real Marvel Comics. They could care less about Marvel comic books and it's a money losing proposition for them to.
They've canceled more profitable divisions before.
Yeah, so it's a matter of time. One of these days, somebody's going to flinch, either Disney or Warner Brothers, and they'll either sell off or shut down Marvel.
So if you like
DC.
Marvel comics, if you like Marvel comics on either as a creator or as a reader, your best bet is behave well.
Yeah,
because bad behavior and bad publicity is one thing they hate, and you're going to get it shut down faster than fast by behaving poorly on either side.
Yeah, because Disney would not hesitate. Disney would not hesitate to shut down a company that had too many problems, too many unruly freelancers that
and not
control,
making any money.
And not making any money. If you're making tons of money, you can get away with more, but the company's not making a whole lot of money. So you really, if you want to keep your clubhouse, just keep your head down.
It's not just Marvel. Several companies are losing money like hand over fist. So anyway, that is a long discussion.
That is. We're actually, we're going to break this one up into 2 parts. If you're hearing this part, this is part 2. We'll go back and we'll record something for part 1.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening to the rant. Again, we'd love to hear your comments. We don't talk a whole lot about the comic book industry, and part of it is
we didn't. That's
but
gonna change.
We didn't want to get involved really, because we did know a lot of people.
We tried to stay out of it, and then people drug us into it.
We got drug into it, so we're gonna just let her fly at this point. Because I mean, honestly,
hell no.
The comic book industry as it is right now, I have no desire to work in it. But the new comic book industry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about the one person, I'm not going to name names, who tried to take me on the one day about this whole situation.
Oh, jeez.
And how I shut this person up was, because it was true. I'm like, I'm not going to listen. She kept writing these giant manifestos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have time to read your giant manifesto, because I actually have to get catch a plane tomorrow for my real job that isn't comics, thank God.
Yeah.
And when I said that, it left me alone, because they don't work in comics anyway.
No, because the thing is,
I just don't really want your job. I don't want your job.
It's that threat. They want to threaten. Well, you can't make a living in comics. Very few people can make a living in comics.
We did on our own stuff.
On our own stuff, we did. We made more money. We made more money working on our own comics than we ever made taking a page rate for other companies.
That's
so
true.
It's the new version of comics going forward is going to be people doing their own thing, crowdfunding, digital comics. You will not need club comics. Club comics, they're acting the way they are because they're scared. They know you don't need them.
Yeah.
So
and it's not about your gender or your race or your sexual orientation, because quite frankly, you and I, we don't care about that. We have friends that have all different types, and that's not a deciding factor in anything we do, because we love everybody. But behaving unprofessionally and being, threatening and nasty
to people
is why we're actually saying something, because I honestly don't care.
And I'm appalled at the people who are doing. Some of the people who are participating in this, I never would have thought.
I know.
And I know them personally, and it makes me very upset that they are saying some of the things they're saying online.
Yeah, and on the flip side of this too, though, is if you're a person that you're just being nasty simply because somebody is a different gender than you, different race than you, different sexual orientation than you, you're an asshole and you need to stop.
Yeah, just stop it.
Because that's just not okay. But I'm just saying, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all an excuse.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap this up, and like I said, I'm going to break this up into 2 parts, and if you're listening to this part, it's part 2, there's a part 1 out there somewhere, so I'll put a link to both in both videos, and we will talk to you later. I'd like to hear your
Before
thoughts.
You're going to be like, we're never listening to them again.
I'd like to hear your thoughts.
That woman, that bitch's crazy.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, so leave a couple of comments. It's a very interesting time to be in comics, for sure.
Yeah, something.